I'll tell you this. I don't know if you guys, if you can tell by looking at me, but I do have family members with Down syndrome. It almost got me. I dodged it, but it nicked me. It nicked me. It's funny. Look, I don't have any material that can be on TV, all right? I'm trying my best. Also, this place is extremely well lit. I can see everyone not enjoying it. This is, just the most nervous I've ever been. Don't clap now. Shut up.
Well, well, well. The great triggering happened this weekend as Shane Gillis, many refer to him as kind of anti-woke comedian. I would say he's more just like a regular dude. Hosted SNL years after they fired him for spicy jokes or insensitive impersonations, I believe, of Asian people, if I remember correctly. But Shane Gillis probably has one of the biggest repertoires of kind of edgy jokes that would not have been edgy in the 90s, like almost certainly, or even the 2000s. But in 2024, if you're making Down syndrome jokes, people are going to get triggered. He hosted SNL, and the band behind him was visibly upset, and most of the media around it also had complete meltdowns. I can't tell you enough. Like, to be fair, the best sketch that they had Shane Gillis in, they didn't even air. The Limu Emu spoof was absolutely hilarious. Never made it to air. Most of the other sketches were pretty hit or miss. The Trump shoes one was actually pretty funny, even though obviously he was taking a dig at Trump, but it also took a dig at Biden. His pleasure doll one was pretty funny. Some of the other bits were not very funny. But that's just Saturday Night Live. I don't watch that show. I watched his bits on YouTube so I could have an educated take on it. But the media has been absolutely melting down, trying to call it cringy, or they said he tanked, or you see this. Everybody's basically, everybody's covered. It says NPR, Shane Gillis returns to Saturday Night Live and bombs opening monologue. Shane Gillis bombs on SNL with Down syndrome and gay jokes. Shane Gillis opens SNL monologue by getting fired. Oh, yeah. So Shane Gillis asks you not to Google him in cringy SNL monologue. Look, to me, I watched it. He looked nervous. He meandered a little too much, but he did kind of hit his main jokes. Obviously, he went straight with the Down syndrome jokes. The gay for your mom joke. Most of his kind of standard stuff. But, I mean, if anything, I would say he looked nervous. I thought he did well in the skits or the sketches or whatever. Overall, again, you see it tanked, it was cringe and offensive. Get over it. Essentially, basically, Shane Gillis fans probably loved it, and the woke losers that would still watch SNL got triggered by it. You see, big fan here. If you listen to any of his recent podcast appearance or Netflix special, it was all recycled material. Well, that's because that's what you do. Most of the people watching Saturday Night Live have never seen Shane Gillis before. Oh, yeah, this HR bit was actually pretty funny about banking, asking people out at work. That was pretty funny. It had some moments, but the media is not happy. By the way, I want to remind everybody, huge sale at my coffee company, coffeebrandcoffee.com. We're going on 2 years in business now. We roast our own stuff. We ship our own beans. We're not one of those weird YouTuber dropship outfits that you might see floating around. And we've got 15% off everything on the site with promo code 15OFF. And our Roaster's Choice Club, our monthly coffee club, which has a ultra high-end, super small batch coffee every month coming from a different location around the world, whether it's Honduras or Brazil or Ecuador. It changes every month. And that month is now that's your 50% off your first month if you want to sign up for that. We've got probably about 30 spots left. We kind of limit it because we can only get so much. Anyway, check out coffeebrandcoffee.com. Flavored coffee, unflavored coffee, whole bean, ground, everything you could possibly want. And it supports the channel. Shane Gillis' meant to be triumphant return to Saturday Night Live this weekend was a mixed bag of humor, some which landed with a thud, like any episode of the long-running show, and a couple of good laughs. Much of the show's sketches took the comedian and podcaster's white bro shtick and dialed it back a tad, ultimately finding a sweet spot closer to the line that he routinely crosses. Gillis made a strong effort in his return to Studio 8H on Saturday Night Live, but he struggled through his monologue and was visibly anxious as he pivoted to new topics. Ribbing with his dad, who sat with his mother to support him, was one of his bigger career moments. Didn't go over well. Yes, having a dad who's girls' basketball coach might be pretty funny to you, Shane, but it's not really to everyone else. I mean, that was the bit. I mean, of course, the leftoids loved the Trump shoes sketch. That was genuinely funny. The joke was basically like, they don't actually make you good, but they make you so confident that you can, basically say you're good and people around you believe it. It was pretty funny to me, pretty hilarious. I don't think, again, I admit I thought his monologue was he was anxious or nervous. They had the floor one that was just not funny at all. They had a lot of sketches that were just not awesome. Well, my dogs are playing. Perfect timing, right when I hit the record button. But of course, I wouldn't say that it was cringe or that he bombed. It's just the media, trying to spin it. Shane Gillis finally gets his predictably dire SNL debut. Like, what? I mean, put it this way. Based on whoever has been hosting SNL over the past 2 years, with maybe perhaps one outlier here or there that I'm not thinking of, with a few odd exceptions, Gillis is probably the biggest star or most rising star to host SNL in a very long time. The media desperately, Shane Gillis bombs on SNL with Down syndrome and gay jokes. I wouldn't say that. Again, I would say he was nervous. That was visible. New York Post even, Shane Gillis opens SNL hosting gig with several jokes about Down syndrome, which has been like, his bit. And you look at the replies, comedian makes jokes, me, okay. Red Dwarf K, and I'm sure his niece loved it. Y'all need to learn to laugh more and realize that not everything comes from a place of hate. Are we not allowed to laugh anymore? By the way, just getting absolutely demolished. 1.2 thousand likes, 3,000 likes. Just, you see, I'm sure his Uncle Danny was thrilled to hear about him, talk about him on TV. Don't let the jokes get you down. Breaking news, comedians tell jokes. Dude, why does the New York Post hate people with Down syndrome? And, I mean, like, even, people say, my son has Down syndrome. Shane's jokes come from a place of love and acceptance. Everyone needs to lighten up. The corporate press of the enemy of the people. So it's like, people say, cancel culture is so over. I mean, look, he basically went into, enemy territory. There were a couple of people that were there that posted their experiences and did say that, much of the audience wasn't really laughing very loudly. But again, they're already pre-programmed bots to not like him. Some members of the band not laughing at all. The funniest thing is when he says, it's really well lit in here, and I can see you guys not enjoying it. I mean, and then you say, I just looked up SNL monologues on YouTube. They almost never laugh. I mean, yeah, I suppose these were repeated jokes, but that's what Louis C.K. told him to do. Louis C.K. said, just do your do your regular material. So the media is obviously melting down, trying to say like, Shane Gillis back on SNL after firing doesn't tone down the jokes. He polarizes audience with controversial monologue. What? I just don't, the fact that the Trump sneakers thing was a sketch really continues to show you how, like, these sneakers really have them all triggered, and makes me wish I would have got a pair. You see, SNL goes anti-woke. Fired former cast member Shane Gillis makes triumphant return as host with very risque jokes about race, gays, and Down syndrome, which, by the way, would be a part of any one of his normal stand-up routines. The funny man who became huge online star after his 2019 ousting over phobic remarks stunned the audience by suggesting he'd been nicked by Down syndrome and using the R word. That's a joke I've heard Shane Gillis tell a million times. Maybe that's, one thing I was thinking is maybe that's why people weren't really laughing, is because maybe there were Shane Gillis fans in the audience, but they had already heard all these jokes before. That could be part of it. And like, before moving on, Gillis briefly addressed the firing opening with a chastened, "Yeah, I'm here. Most of you probably have no idea who I am." He said, "I was actually fired from the show a while ago. Don't look that up, please. If you don't know who I am, please don't Google that. It's fine. Don't even worry about it." He then joked about how he resembles a high school football coach, before calling out his father, who's in the audience, saying that he's a volunteer junior high school basketball coach. Perhaps too many kind of inside jokes. If he had done his Trump impression and made fun of Trump, I'm sure the NPCs in the audience would have absolutely loved it. Then he told the mom joke, when your mom stops being your friend. That's pretty spicy. But, overall, Gillis is, I don't really consider him to be quote unquote anti-woke. I just consider him to be like a regular comedian who's telling jokes that were like, that normal people think are funny. You see, first funny thing on SNL since Dave Chappelle. Glad you broken clocks finally got another one right for once. Shane Gillis should run your whole show. The fellas when Shane Gillis SNL monologue started. Finally a real comedian. Shane Gillis did it. He's officially too funny for SNL. Shane Gillis was uncomfortable, but these jokes were still on point and funny. Kind of funny they fired Shane Gillis for doing offensive accents on his podcast. In the very first sketch, he does an offensive accent. Here's some of the people. Hard to hear him make fun of developmentally delayed persons. My aunt was DD, and she was fully aware of when she was being made fun of and laughed at. Shame on you, SNL. Shame on you, SNL. Oh, wait. Shame on you, SNL. Shame on you, SNL. Joking about Down syndrome. Really, SNL? Never had this horrible person on again. If you believe in comedy, if you believe in humor, then you believe that all things are, open to be joked at and made fun of. And, the Liberty Mutual, if you watch anything, look up the Liberty Mutual one. It's pretty hilarious. Shane Gillis hosts SNL now with a bang, but a meh analysis. Shane Gillis manages to make these SNL sketches funny, but just barely. Shane Gillis struggles in Saturday Night Live monologue, which avoids the obvious. I don't really know. Was he supposed to get up there and apologize? I think that might be what they wanted. I thought, again, his monologue was mediocre. I do think some of his sketches were hilarious. The doll one was hilarious. The Trump sneakers one was hilarious. The HR one was funny. The Liberty one, which never got to air, was one of the most hilarious sketches I've seen in a while. Yeah, the game show one was lame, and the Jamaican church one was weird and kind of cringy, not funny, I guess. Not cringy, but just kind of not funny. But, it's been 100 years since all the sketches on SNL were funny, or 50 years, So I think, like, the fact that people are pretending to be offended is right on par. I'm glad that he showed up. I doubt he's ever going to go back. We'll have to wait and see. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out coffeebrandcoffee.com, and we'll talk to you again real soon.